What makes you nervous no matter how many times you do it? My fill showed me how to change my own oil. It's not as much cheaper as I hoped. The oil plus filter is $50. Then you have to jack the car up, get under it and do the job, then clean up and dispose of the oil. After that an $80 oil change isn't such a bad deal. I still do it myself cause it seems to have become a family tradition. Always run the conditional as a select first. See if what you think and the database think are the same. Edit, holy crap. This was just an offhand comment, I never thought it would go anywhere. Yes, agreed 100% with everyone saying to start a transaction for the actual change. For anyone asking how to use the select first, take your statement, delete from network.history mactable where mac equals 00:00 to add bf, and change it to select from network.history mactable where mac equals 00:00 to add bf. Similar concept for update. It should give you the same list of records delete will act on with the understanding, of course, that the database is always changing, depending on its purpose. Still, if you open the transaction, you'll see the database at the state when the transaction was started. I am not a professional DBA, I'm a network engineer, can you tell, with a respectable baseline in PostgreSQL, use it to collect various network statistics, and yes I've been bitten by not pre-running a query, and not using a transaction, to see what would happen. Oops. My boss did that to me when I took a day off last year. Was very nervous as I knew it was important if he was asking me to chat on my personal day, and sat there nervous about it for 3 hours leading up to our meeting. Turns out I was getting a promotion to manager with a nice pay raise. That day was a whirlwind of anxiety and emotions. My boss did this when extenuating circumstances forced me to take like a week off. I told him about my life situation and that I needed to use like 5 days of PTO, and he said okay, when you get back we need to talk fuck me lol. Luckily the next day he messaged me saying oh and don't worry, it's good news lol. He probably realized how it seemed. Fiancé and I tried to go to one of our local bars to try their supposedly good food. Enter the threshold, immediately stared down by the lone group of 5. Sat down and was ignored for 20 minutes until the bartender shouts that the grill was down, cook was off. Got up and left. Kicker was that the owner had been on the local radio station promoting the business and bitching about not getting enough customers earlier that week. Wonder why? We had been there before with my fiancé's parents and got the very unwelcoming stares then. After the second experience, her dad said it's pretty normal at that bar. We only went with them because they had some promotion at the time with other local restaurants to sell punch cards and get a free cheeseburger meal for like $30 for 8 locations in town. Good deal, only a few decent restaurants lol. The owner isn't very open-minded, as I've found out over the last couple of years, so it's doubtful they'd take constructive advice from someone they don't know. Sadly, people who shouldn't run a business do it all the time. The only time I've ever been pulled over, I was driving down the motorway in fairly busy traffic when out of nowhere a dozen police 4x4s appear surrounding me and the car in front, forcing us to the hard shoulder. I switch off my engine and start panicking, then realize they probably didn't want me but the white Land Rover in front. Get waved off without any further explanation. I still wonder what the guy did that they couldn't arrest them the normal way. Same kinda thing happened to me. We were passing the cop car, on a highway road, on the left side going the speed limit. Right after we do so we start getting pulled over, me and my friend are like, OMG WTF, all we did was pass him, he can't be pulling us over just for that. We were also nervous too because we were also in between insurances. By the time I pull my registration out, he was at my window, all smiles, telling us the reason he stopped us was because my front license plate was on the passenger side windshield. On the dashboard, he said in the event of an accident and airbags going off, it would turn into a bullet and possibly hurt or kill the passenger. So I'm glad he stopped me, good experience too. No ticket and he didn't even ask for papers. The only time in my life I was pulled over was for this reason. It was very lightly misty and my headlights are always in the automatic mode, but it obviously wasn't dark enough to be turned on automatically. I had absolutely no idea why they pulled me over, and even now I still think it wasn't even necessary. Of course, at that moment, I turned them on and went, "Thank you officer, have a nice day officer." When I was about 13 and my older sister was 17, we were leaving our church picnic after helping clean up. It was dark out and we were just a bunch of kids on the way home, but my sister who was driving didn't turn her headlights on. She gets pulled over and my friend who was in the car asks her if she needs her purse with her license in it, so he starts looking around for it and rummaging through the trunk. When the cops get up to our car they asked what we were doing before they got there, and thought we were trying to hide something. They made us all get out of the car and they searched it, trying to find whatever drugs these young kids were obviously in possession of while wearing their local church picnic shirts. My sister is very upset by all this and tells my dad what happened when we got home, and he proceeded to walk down the block to the chief of police's house who lived right down the street from us. I don't remember exactly what happened as it was a while ago, but I do remember hearing that both officers were strongly reprimanded from the chief himself, all over a simple mistake of leaving the headlights off. I truly want to go to an interview and just give terrible answers. What did you do during this 1-year gap between these two jobs? Involuntary mental health commitment. Are you legally allowed to work in this country? Not only am I legally allowed to work here, but as a condition of my parole, I am required to have a job. End communication. This happened to me with an iPhone 4, I spent like 6 months doing extra chores around the house to earn enough kudo points to buy my mom's old iPhone. I was walking home from this teen nightclub thingy ran by this wonderful old lady. I had pulled it out to skip the song 21 Guns, and my jeans pockets were too tight and the phone slipped from my grasp, bounced once off the sidewalk and then perfectly dropped between the grates without even touching it. I almost cried. Driving in between two semi-trucks on the freeway. Bonus points if one or both is carrying a bunch of logs. Edit, holy shit, this blew up. Thanks strangers for the rewards and commiserating. For the record, I am very aware that this is something one should not do unless you have to. The only times this happens to me is if I am in one of the middle lanes on a 4 or 5 lane highway and semis come up on either side. In those cases, I speed up as quick as I can to pass one or the other. Always drive defensively. For context, I routinely work with 460 volts at about 40 amps. Turning it all on for the first time. So many times I have done this. I have trained people how to do it. I have never once done it where had I not done it right I could have been injured. Yet still every time I almost hear a voice, this is it. This is the moment in the video, shown by insurance companies for safety training, where it starts playing. All that comes next is pain and blackness. I know it is absurd. I pull tested the wires. I made sure that I have a power sequencing plan. I know the SCCR. It won't explode because there literally is not enough energy to explode, and even if it did the cabinet would protect me. When you know you're the only customer and you know they won't have what you went in to find as soon as you walk in. How long do you have to pretend to be just looking to satisfy them that you've seen everything very deliberately and might come back to purchase after you think about it? Should you ask questions about something you don't care about? Should you ask for exactly what you want so they can tell you they don't carry it, offer a substitute, and then say, no, sorry, it has to be ________, and then they offer to order it, and then you have to order it? How much will that cost? I know how to order stuff. I mean, This is exactly why people order online. Anytime I go into a bike shop I get really insecure. The last bike shop I went to I was stopped at the door by the owner. He said, "These bikes cost between $6,000, $9,000. Then he gently placed his hand on my back and moved me back onto the sidewalk. It was probably harmless but I felt incredibly stupid. Edit, thanks everyone. I definitely feel way better. The best part is I work in sports branding and my wife is a doctor. So suck it, Lou. I briefly sold cars years ago, and one thing they stressed is to never pre-qualify people and assume they aren't customers based on appearance. I know from personal experience that there are successful surgeons who, when they aren't at work, honestly dress like they are about to go camping. There are building contractors who make a shit ton of money, but they spend a lot of time on various work sites and dress accordingly. Honestly, if I had a lot of money I'd dress mostly the same way I do now. I'd just own more pairs of shoes, and a lot nicer watch, and when I did wear a suit it would be one of top quality. A relative of mine worked in a menswear shop on commission and has a story exactly about that. Some guy came in looking all dirty and scruffy and the other assistants didn't want to help him. Said relative thought they were being ridiculous and helped the guy. Turned out he owned a construction company, had been working on site that day, and needed a bunch of nice new clothes for business meetings. That's funny, I sold cars for a bit too and that's something I'll always take with me, never prejudge. I sold Volkswagens and had a guy who owned a plumbing company come up in his work truck and the other salesmen pretty much ignored him, and were slow to get out there, so I ran out and greeted him first and turns out it was perfect timing. He had already done all his research and cruised by the lot plenty before, so he bought this gray Touareg he was eyeing, and a brand new Beetle for his wife. And $80 plus deal cash, from an old school owner of a plumbing company who drove his own work van even. Got me Employee of the Month. And makes me less judgmental now I feel. They are just super high quality, and probs tailored to him specifically. But yeah, I kinda always laugh when people say but look at this person, he's a billionaire and still dressed just a t-shirt and jeans, they are so humble. No, that shirt probs costs between $200-$500, the jeans probs are also around $250 and the shoes probably even more. So no, they are wearing minimum $1,000 worth of clothes on them, they are just discreet about it. Truly expensive clothes don't have big ass logos. It's still ridiculous though. A few years back I was at the lot trying to buy my car. I was in my late 20s, needed a haircut, and wearing basketball shorts and a t-shirt. I was looking at the used Lexuses, but nobody wanted to come talk to me. A former neighbor saw me on the lot and stopped by to say hi, and two salespeople were out to greet her before she even closed her car door. She worked at a CVS and I was making six figures. She just happened to be in her 50s and looked like a typical customer. It's crazy how much salespeople will judge before even saying a word to someone. I briefly sold cars years ago, and one thing they stressed is to never pre-qualify people and assume they aren't customers based on appearance. This is not practiced at Ferrari in Cape Town. No, I wasn't buying a Ferrari, but they didn't necessarily know that. I walked in, they looked up, took in my appearance, and went back straight to what they were doing. I was just going to walk over to the merchandise shelf and see if they had Formula 1 keyrings and hats and shit, but that not one person even tried to be polite about it really irritated me. I do love Ferraris and maybe one day I will buy one. And then I will go to Ferrari in Cape Town, I will look completely disheveled, I will stand around for ages and likely be ignored, and then I will start demanding unnecessary shit when I place the order. Such as I expect a red carpet and a small crowd applauding when I come to pick it up, and I expect it to be gift wrapped, completely covered, in really nice paper and with a big bow on it, and I want a really good selection of obscure music which I will make difficult for them to acquire already pre-programmed into the stereo, and I want all the staff to be wearing tuxedos on that day. All because on that day back in 1996 I got pretty womaned when I walked into Ferrari in Cape Town with no intention of buying a Ferrari. I would have thought employees just hanging around a Ferrari dealership would be happy to just get to talk to somebody. Hell, most weekdays at a standard dealership you see very few people. If I didn't have any leads or appointments, which was often the case, I'll talk to anyone who walks into the office. The chances of selling some random person a car, or getting the number of someone they know who is actually looking for a car, are significantly higher than selling a car when I'm just sitting at my desk staring at the ceiling. I lived in Silicon Valley during the tech boom, and holy shit, some of the richest people were filthy slobs. My car story though, female, was looking for a new car and was out to test drive a few. I had narrowed it down to nix the Volvo SUV and walked into a BMW dealership in shorts, a t-shirt, flip-flops and a baseball hat. Put my name and number on a list and sat down to wait. 30 minutes later, while watching salespeople sitting in their offices alone, I walk out. They call me right as I'm pulling out of the lot and ask me where I'm going. I was sick of waiting. I'm going to the Audi dealership. No, I'm not coming back. I bought a fully loaded Q7 that day. In cash. Fuck BMW. I'll never buy one because of that singular experience. My husband had one when he died, and even though it had less miles than mine, I sold that thing immediately because I'm a grudge-holding bitch. I just bought my first new car on Saturday, and you couldn't be any more correct. I went in looking to buy a really nice car, but I showed up in paint-covered gym shorts, a graphic t-shirt I got for free, and a faded and fraying hat. I bought a Genesis, which is Hyundai's luxury brand, but operate out of Hyundai dealerships. It looked like I was there to buy a pre-owned Hyundai Accent. I couldn't have looked more out of place. I make 4 times what I used to make, and I dress like more of a hobo now. ___/. I briefly sold cars years ago, and one thing they stressed is to never pre-qualify people and assume they aren't customers based on appearance. This is not practiced at Ferrari in Cape Town. No, I wasn't buying a Ferrari, but they didn't necessarily know that. I walked in, they looked up, took in my appearance, and went back straight to what they were doing. I was just going to walk over to the merchandise shelf and see if they had Formula 1 keyrings and hats and shit, but that not one person even tried to be polite about it really irritated me. I do love Ferraris, and maybe one day I will buy one. And then I will go to Ferrari in Cape Town, I will look completely disheveled, I will stand around for ages and likely be ignored, and then I will start demanding unnecessary shit when I place the order. Such as I expect a red carpet and a small crowd applauding when I come to pick it up, and I expect it to be gift wrapped, completely covered, in really nice paper and with a big bow on it, and I want a really good selection of obscure music which I will make difficult for them to acquire already pre-programmed into the stereo, and I want all the staff to be wearing tuxedos on that day. All because on that day back in 1996 I got pretty womaned when I walked into Ferrari in Cape Town with no intention of buying a Ferrari. Anytime I go into a bike shop I get really insecure. The last bike shop I went to I was stopped at the door by the owner. He said, "These bikes cost between $6,000, $9,000. Then he gently placed his hand on my back and moved me back onto the sidewalk. It was probably harmless, but I felt incredibly stupid. Edit, thanks everyone. I definitely feel way better. The best part is I work in sports branding and my wife is a doctor. So suck it, Lou. I briefly sold cars years ago, and one thing they stressed is to never pre-qualify people and assume they aren't customers based on appearance. I know from personal experience that there are successful surgeons who, when they aren't at work, honestly dress like they are about to go camping. There are building contractors who make a shit ton of money, but they spend a lot of time on various work sites and dress accordingly. Honestly, if I had a lot of money, I'd dress mostly the same way I do now. I'd just own more pairs of shoes, and a lot nicer watch, and when I did wear a suit it would be one of top quality.